I'm a narcissist.
Also, it had to have a definitive ending. Likewise, when I worked on Uncharted 4, same thing. When I
Yeah. I didn't know that was happening.
Even though the movie that she starred in was god-awful, I gotta give her this. She says things that most Hollywood people are afraid to say, especially if it's making them look bad, or it's not the popular thing to say. So there's an article that came out saying Dakota Johnson says Hollywood is a mess, decisions are made by people who don't watch movies or know anything about them, and studios remake the same things. And I mean, she's not wrong. We're getting remakes and rehashes and redoings of things, and it's getting so tired. And I don't know why it is the popular choice for these studios to remake these cartoons, but they always have to be remade in live action. If you want to update them, sure, why not? But they're itching so bad that they'll straight up remake movies into so-called live action, even though the thing they're remaking it from was also mostly CGI, and the last bit of that story was only released 5 years ago. Of all the things you could be doing with the money, I will never understand why they choose to go this route. When you're remaking movies, you either want to retell the story in a different format, or it's so outdated, technologically wise, that it might be unwatchable to some people. And I think the elephant in the room is that a lot of these stories that they're remaking don't need to even be remade. They still hold up completely fine, story-wise and technically. When you have these new Hollywood execs that are always trying to fix something that they think is broken, you're just redoing something that already works. It doesn't need to be remade. And most of the time, this is why people don't go to theaters anymore. When you remake them, they always turn out freaking worse. So I agree with Dakota Johnson. It does feel very lazy. They're recycling content and not wanting to take a chance on creating anything new. There's so many books out there and concepts that have yet to have on-screen adaptations. But the truth is they're scared, and they know that the IP has already been pre-sold, which essentially makes them function as parasites because they see a franchise that did well in the book section. They're thinking to themselves, gee, we don't want to have any effort and take any risks because we're lazy and we're talentless. What are we gonna do? Oh wait, doesn't that franchise over there already have a big following? Let's use that and siphon the audience, and then bait and switch them. Which is why we end up with disappointments like Wheel of Time, where if you listen to people who read the books, they have a completely different experience than those who have watched the show. And mind you, this is the first on-screen adaptation that I've seen of it. I've never known about Wheel of Time before this, and I was really excited about it. I actually liked it, and then they shit the bed. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, but I'm glad people spoke up and told me that the book is not like this, and I'm wondering if there's like this conspiracy for them to make the shows really bad so that people want to go back and read the books and increase the book sales even more. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the things that gives me hope as an author. I really don't know if any of my books will ever be picked up by TV. I really hope not. But if they do, I kind of hope they'll mess it up, because as someone who's also an avid reader, whenever I see stuff like this, all it serves to do is make me want to go read the books. The same thing happened with Aragon, because good lord, when you go back and watch the movie after having read the books, you realize that what the hell were they even thinking with what they did with this? First of all, it should have been a show, and they probably wouldn't have done as good a job as they were able to accomplish within the books. And this isn't just about books, it's original source materials in general, like The Last of Us, at least the first game, because when that first game came out, everyone adored it. Yeah, the second game was ass, but the games are already narrative on their own in their form. But these people are like, oh, well, let's remake it into a show because everything has to be remade into a live action show or a movie, even though every single time we do that, they freaking end up flopping. It's like they release 6 remakes and they all freaking do horribly, and they're like, I got a great idea. You know what will finally fix this pain and debt that I put myself under from all these remakes flopping? Make another remake.
That's a great idea!
So she goes on to saying, I think it's hard when creative decisions are made by committee, and it's hard when creative decisions are made by people who don't even really watch movies or know anything about them, and that tends to be what's occurring a lot. Now, there are a lot of modern movies that have come out, and I also know there are a lot of classics. For example, Dune. When I had heard about Dune, it was not this. I have watched some movies, like when we were in school, especially in film school, they have to show us some original stuff, but looking back at this and the original Star Trek, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure if I was forced to watch it, I'd be okay with it, but there are times when a lot of these original movies, like the original Dune movie, did the best they could but couldn't fully capture the scope of what they wanted. And now that we have better tech, better writing, and even better acting, better looking people, I think this is one of those rare cases, albeit it shouldn't be really rare, where a remake can be seen as necessary to allow for a truer or more realistic adaptation of the book or the original story. See, that's what remakes are for. If the original had a good concept but really poor execution, or it's severely outdated because what the hell is even those graphics? Whether it be to the budget or whatever I just listed, the remake looks better. I am so glad. This is actually the first time I've watched Dune or really got into the world and the concept of this. For example, Foundation. It's another series that my husband and I absolutely love because we're big sci-fi buffs. Can you imagine if they tried to make this in like the 1950s or whatnot? I mean, maybe for the time when people existed back then, it was like revolutionary with the kind of tech that they had. But then you try to show stuff to like us, the next generation or the generation after us, or 40 years in the future, they're probably going to be looking at movies that we have coming out now. And they're going to be like, wow, you guys watched this on a two-dimensional platform on a screen? You're not in 3D, like living out the movie. You're not standing in the middle of the characters and actually interacting with them to move the story along. You don't feel the rain on your face or smell the burning flesh. Wow, how archaic were you people? How did you watch entertainment like that and actually found it entertaining? Weak. For all you know, they're going to be watching our movies now and laughing their asses off at the fact that we have cars that are on the ground. Or I don't know, that we have human bodies and we thought that people with superpowers were superheroes or like gods. Maybe in the future, everybody there has those superpowers and it's completely natural to them. I can see that being important for historical value, but I imagine they're going to see concepts from the past and they're going to be like, okay, we don't have cars on the ground and we want to make a modern story that makes sense. Hell, in our future, people could snap their fingers and end up in another country. So doing a modern day story with people taking planes and cars is very prehistoric and we're not troglodytes. So yeah, let's redo the story and make it make sense, shall we? And they may find the need to remake these movies and update them for their current technology. However, there is something to be said for historical context, and I think the people of the future would benefit from learning from that. But yeah, if you're doing something new with it, different tone, style, perspective, what have you, and if it's respectfully done, you're not changing a whole bunch of stuff because people are going to be offended over everything. Unless, of course, most people in the future are vegan and nobody eats meat at all, and they're thinking, wow, this is barbaric that people actually ate meat back then. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, you can allow for these remakes, but most remakes, especially nowadays, don't fit any of these exceptions to the rule. And there's the other thing I was talking about, the stupid freaking need for all live action remakes or remakes in general to veer away from 2D animation when the originals were 2D animated. I don't know why people think that animation is going out of style or something, but we need to bring it back. When you look at people like Dead Sound and what he's able to accomplish, or even Love, Death, and Robots, and not even that, even some video games that have come out in the recent years, these are things that have appealed to everyone. And I don't know why studios think that live action appeals to a wider demographic, you know, like, ooh, this is for kids, only kids can like animation, when they're forgetting a lot of people that like that style of animation, they grew up on it. Doesn't necessarily mean they grew out of it. And I would even say you have an easier time pushing merchandise using animated works of art rather than just the live action. We got webtoons, we got manhwas, Japanese animation, like, this is just proving to people, or at least it should, that animation still has a big place in people's hearts. And I would argue it's one of the best ways to tell a story. They're trying so hard to cut costs, and as a result, they're literally cutting their own costs, which means they're not making a profit like they used to when animation was at its peak. And it's not like animation is not in demand, it still obviously is.
Had enough yet?
No, Dad, not even close.
Even if you take someone like my dad who does not like animation for some reason, he thinks, oh, animation is just for kids. But he is also a gigantic fan when it comes to action movies, especially superhero stuff or martial arts. And I've been convincing, like my father, trying to convince him, hey, Daddy, you gotta watch Invincible, you gotta watch Invincible, you gotta watch Invincible. And when I actually showed it to him to see if he could stomach the animation, he was like, oh, this is fine. I thought you meant like the Teletubby stuff. himself. I'm like, what are you talking about? Nobody really does that. That's not even, I don't know what he was talking about, but he sat and binged the entire thing with me. And mind you, my father's still a big Marvel fan. He's so adorable, it doesn't really take much to entertain him. As long as it's heroes and people overcoming adversity, superpowers, or the ability to fight or whatnot, and even a little bit of romance, and he's sold. You do have a huge swath of the population that have children, and they will watch these things with their children. Maybe some of them never even thought about watching animation until they were forced to sit down and watch it with their children, and then they realized, wow, I actually like this kind of medium. This is kind of cool. You mean there's rich stories that don't always have to look like they're based in reality? And a lot of these stories that they're remaking were written for 2D animation or animation period, where suspension of disbelief and stylized emotions are completely natural. And then what happens when you strip away the medium? You strip away the soul of the story. And it's the same thing that happened with the How to Train Your Dragon remake. Even though they pretty much try to stay faithful to the adaptation, which, I respect them for. Sorry, but this version of Hiccup and these characters that look like they're cosplaying as How to Train Your Dragon characters from freaking TikTok, honestly, for me personally, has nothing on this original work of art. I mean, the characters look realistic in that they look like they belong to the world. They don't look like they got their freaking costumes off of Temu. Their emotions seem to fit the situation and the world that they're a part of. So we can be removed from it, but it still be believable as a fantasy. Here's a hot take. If you want to remake a 2D film, remake it in 2D. Update the animation quality. Or if it was originally in 3D and CGI and just CGI, redo it in just CGI. Use modern tools to sharpen the details. Re-record the music with better sound engineering. Keep the artistry and the stylization and the charm that 2D naturally delivers or 3D animation naturally delivers. Hell, Studio Ghibli has done this for years. And whenever they do have reboots in animation from Japan, they manage to do it and enhance the originals without destroying the soul. And as Dakota Johnson says here, the main reason why people are going this route is because it's about money. It's not about art anymore. It's not about passion. I'm not saying every single person is doing that, but most of these studios are all about chasing the short-term box office over the long-term cultural legacy of these things. And they don't trust the audiences who are adults to, for example, trust animation as an equal medium or to enjoy anything original. And people are itching for originality because we've gotten shows like Severance, which is an excellent show, by the way, a concept I've never seen before. Of course, I've thought about it, but I've never even thought about it in this exact execution. And shows like From, which is also a really good show that I'm glad more people are hopping onto now. This is what we got, original concepts. And when I give a show the highest praise, where I'm like, oh my god, it's like anime, I don't mean it looks like anime all the time. I mean that they're willing to put their feelers out there to venture into some weird territory. Same thing with Foundation or Raised by Wolves. Yes, I will continue saying it ad nauseum. How upset I am that they cancel this freaking show. And I just think they didn't do enough marketing. Not enough people knew about it. And by the time they started getting a hold of it, it was too late and they dropped it.
Blow your house in.
Yo, this woman is the most badass. Oh my god. Oh god, makes me want to cry. Like, the cliffhanger, they left us on the cliffhanger. Oh my god, the cliff. I don't even want to think about it. I don't even know why I brought it up. I keep doing that to myself. I keep reliving the disappointment. Anyways, so yeah, it's nice to see someone from Hollywood actually pointing this out. She says also, when something does well, studios want to keep that thing going, so they remake the same things, but humans don't want that. They want fresh. They want to feel new things, experience new things. Thank you. See new things. So I don't know. I guess it's all a bit of a mess right now, isn't it? They know that, Dakota. They know that, but they're freaking greedy. And it's catching up to them. Anyway, we can all hope that at some point, the studios will get the picture. And they'll start doing exactly what us humans have evolved for. To constantly learn and to experience new things and to venture to tell new stories and have them told.
I think Hollywood showrunners and some actors need a term limit, just like Congress and the senators need one, because you gotta make space for these new up-and-coming people to bring new life to the industry, because shit's tired.